When I look back on the holidays of 2023, I will have a memory of watching some TikToks with my family around the TV. Yes, it's 2023. I guess that's what people do now. But there's a lot of stuff on TikTok I wouldn't want to watch with my family. But there is one guy that I would definitely want to watch with them. And his name is Jeff Frankenstein.
That's
Frankenstein.
right.
Okay.
Frankenstein. Yeah,
That is an amazing last name. I know you as Frankie, right? That's from TikTok, right?
that's right.
Okay. Well, hey, welcome to the show. I'm fired up to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
So, I don't know how long ago it was that you started posting it. It can't be that long ago. Would you if someone would have told you, "Hey, in a couple years people on Thanksgiving will be sitting around watching you online singing along with you," what would you say?
I would say go eat some more food because I would have never expected for people to be watching my stuff on Thanksgiving. My first video I posted was on February 15th of
Of
this year. I have the
2023.
date embedded in my mind. For whatever reason, right before I turned 40 years old, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just give this a go and see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? People would not watch my videos, but for whatever reason, it's blown up into not really a phenomenon, in my opinion. I still feel like I'm a normal guy, but this has turned into something so crazy I can't even fathom it still.
So maybe could we call this a midlife crisis gone right?
Sure, we can go with that because my wife and I are both on teacher salaries. We ain't buying no red cherry Beamers
Oh
anytime
my
soon.
gosh.
So this will be my thing.
What do y'all teach?
We both teach music. We met in music school at Slippery Rock University, which is about an hour north of Pittsburgh. Um, and I was playing French horn, and my wife was a trumpet major. And in our very first group that we were together, we weren't dating at the time, and we were sitting next to each other. And by the time we were dating, we were on opposite ends because we were like the lowest chair for our instrument. And then by the time we were dating, we were at the highest chair, but
Oh
we were
wow.
further away from each other.
So hey, shout out to y'all for improving, but I'm sure at times you're like, oh, I wish we weren't as good as we used to be because we could sit
Yeah,
next to each other.
yeah, right.
That's funny. I've mentioned or I've heard you say that you have kids. How many kids do you have?
I have two kids. I have a 10-year-old daughter, Hannah, and a 7-year-old son. His name's Isaac.
Okay. Have they snagged a musical gene?
They have. They
Okay. I would
absolutely,
I would hope so. I would think so.
they absolutely have. Like going through this whole process and finding out in college that I had perfect pitch. I wasn't sure if our kids were going to snag that gene, so to speak. And me, I always like to listen to music in my car. My wife likes peaceful quiet because when she's dealing with elementary kids all day, she just wants that quiet time, which I totally get. Totally understand that. But me, I like to sing music in my car, just listen to it, get a good vibe on my way home. And whenever I would take my kids to daycare, we would always listen to music. And I knew from the get go that Hannah had the pitch, and Isaac is still there. Now Hannah is in fifth grade and she's already harmonizing in choir.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's singing alto right now. Well, in fifth grade, it's more two-part singing, so they have a higher part and a lower part. And for the boys, they're not hitting that stage yet where they're hitting the tenor range notes, so it's high
Hmm.
or low. But Hannah is gonna be a choir teacher's dream, hopefully, in a couple of years if she keeps on singing. She could sing that soprano or alto part, whatever's needed. She's already harmonizing. Isaac isn't quite there yet, but I feel bad for my wife Hillary because there will be times where we're in the car and she will be singing something, and then the three of us will be singing, and then we start singing it in the correct key of the song. And my wife doesn't always sing it in the correct key, but like she's always right there. And I think it's just from, hanging out with me. But
Yeah.
as far as like, even if she's just slightly off, the kids will both bring it back up to the right key.
Oh my gosh.
And I always feel bad. I feel bad for her anytime that happens. But
I'm imagining the surely you've seen the Step Brothers scene, the iconic scene of them singing in the backseat of the car. It's the family of four, and they're singing "Sweet Child of Mine." It is probably one of my favorite movie scenes ever. If you haven't seen it, you've got to look it up. It is so funny.
I watched Step Brothers probably one time, so that scene is not in my head, but I'll definitely have to check it out.
Well, it's funny. It's like the two kids are in the back singing, and they're super good, and the dad is really good, and then the mom has the solo, and he's like, "Honey, I paid $1,200 a month for voice lessons for you. You got to be on key." It's so good. It is so good. Okay,
I'll check it out for sure.
Okay, sweet. So I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to like harmony and perfect pitch. I wouldn't say that I have perfect pitch. But to learn a little bit, what would you say? Like, what is perfect pitch? Because I know I'm not talking about music a lot on this podcast, and I don't think people know that I'm super into it. But I want people to know.
So, perfect pitch, if you define it in Google, is a person's ability to identify any musical note by name after hearing it without any other reference to notes. So, like, I know, and I'm going to brag just for a little bit.
Come on.
Is that I can be like a Charlie Puth because I can hear something and know exactly what pitch it is.
I love it.
My kids in school are starting to figure this out that, hey, your one note is off. It could be a wrong fingering if you're on clarinet, or wrong position if you're on trombone, stuff like that. And these kids are like, Mr. Frankenstein, I'm going to test out your perfect pitch right now. And this one kid yesterday, this literally happened yesterday, he said, close your eyes. I'm going to play something and I want you to tell me what note it is. And so I closed my eyes and he hits his music stand. And I said, Elijah, this is not a pitch. You literally hit the stand. And then I opened my eyes and he goes, I can't get him. I can't get it wrong. There was no pitch. He was just hitting a stand, and there's nothing. It's indefinite pitch on a stand. But like,
wow.
if he was standing behind a xylophone, he could play a pitch, and I closed my eyes, I could tell you what note it was. If you ding that coffee mug that you just drank, I could probably tell you what pitch it is.
I bet you could. So I guess for me, for example, I have never played any instruments or anything like that, but I can hear harmony. Like my growing up, it's like my grandmother can, my dad can, and then me, I can. And it's interesting. My sisters can as well. You just kind of hear it. And I've always been curious, can someone, like I was in choir, and so you can teach someone the part, but can they develop the skill to hear it on their own? I imagine there's levels to this, because like perfect pitch, that's probably, as perfect as it gets, but then there's like various levels. What would you say to that?
So there is perfect pitch, and then if you've been in the music field for a long time, you can attain relative pitch.
Okay.
The relative pitch, like if say I was playing a piano, and then like the next minute I could play a trumpet. The trumpet is tuned a whole step off of a piano. So like occasionally if I ask my wife, hey, what pitch is this? If I'm playing an F on piano, it's a G for her on the trumpet. And if I ask her that, she may say it's a G because she hears that pitch. She knows that it's a G on her trumpet, even though it's an F on piano. So like she can attain that. And like her old trumpet instructor, he has played trumpet enough over the years. He's toured all over the country, but he can know over the course of time, hey, I know that's an F or that's an E flat, stuff like that. So that can be obtained through many years of
Okay.
being in the music field. Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Well, I could ask you a million more questions about like the deep side of music and everything, and maybe we'll ask more. But I'm trying to think about most people that listen to this. They're like, hey, Jeff Hampton, come on, let's get to the meat here. And I want to know. You said you started posting in what, February, March of this year?
February of this year. Yes.
Okay, so where in the world did that come from?
So long backstory that I'll try to summarize as best as I can. Like I had said to you before we started recording, I got Snapchat around the same time that my kids were born. Hannah was born in 2013, and I started filming a few videos of myself here and there, just singing. Didn't do any harmonies, stuff like that. Even before that, I wasn't into singing. High school, I wasn't into singing. Then I joined a men's choir in college in 2002, and that ignited my love of singing and singing harmony. I was either a tenor two or a top tenor singing falsetto notes, and the harmony, just hearing that from all the guys was so amazing to
It's
hear.
amazing.
And so fast forward again to 2013, I start filming videos and they're like 10 seconds a piece. Can't really do much of anything with it because it's only 10 seconds. They had a 10-second limit on it. And now I think it's over a minute that you can record yourself at one time. And I just had this crazy idea that, you know what, I'm going to start sending one of my videos to artists. And so I sent a cover of Sunday Service in the Sand by Brian Kelly. And do you know who Brian Kelly is?
Dude, I this is the I'm truly speechless because I forgot about this. Florida Georgia Line, which rest in peace. But
Yeah.
Florida Georgia Line, literally favorite band of all time. So when I heard you say this story, I was freaking out. So all right, I need to shut up now, but I just need to acknowledge the magnitude of this moment that I'm witnessing.
Yes.
Okay, anyways.
Yes, because you may have seen the video where I was talking about it on my TikTok. But
That's right.
yeah, so it was like March or May of 2021. They're in their phase where they're about to break up. Doesn't look like they're going to come back anytime soon. And I'm crushed because I loved this group so much. Before COVID happened, my brother and I went to see them in concert, and I had heard from fans everywhere, you got to go see these guys. And so I saw Florida Georgia Line headlining with Dan and Shay as a guest. Morgan Wallen was a guest. Hardy was a guest. It was such an amazing ticket.
That's so great.
It was such a great concert. So he's going solo. I love his beach album, Sunshine State of Mind. It's so incredible. It's like Jimmy Buffett meets Alan Jackson type deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I send him a cover of me singing in my car, Sunday Service in the Sand. And he instantly reacts to it and says,
Wow.
This is amazing, dude. Frankie with the Harms that he called me. He's like, Frankie with the Harms. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I've been such a fan of your work. And he and I, over the course of time, had become friends. I had sent him another video after I went to his concert. This was 2 months after I'd sent him this first video. I had said, okay, I need to go see him in concert because he's doing some solo shows down in Florida. Right where
he's in like the third. We're in Birmingham, Alabama, like 4 hours from like the Destin 30A area, and I think he like does like pop up stuff there a lot.
He does pop up stuff all over the place. Because I believe he lives along the Panhandle.
Yeah, I think that's right.
in Florida.
Yeah, I know
So,
exactly where his house is. No, I'm kidding.
hey, can we go?
Yeah.
So May of 2021, or I think it's 2022, I had sent him a video of myself singing another one of his songs. And then he instantly follows me and shares it with all of his followers. And that that was the point where I was completely speechless. It was
Wow.
2022, so I'll correct myself. I sent him the first video in March of 2022 and he likes it, and we're conversing back and forth. And then May of 2022, my best friend from high school lives in Tampa, and I said to her, "Okay, we need to go see him because I know you would love this kind of music." And after the show is over, he is meeting fans, signing autographs, and my friend pulls me up near the stage right where he just came down, and he's signing autographs, taking pictures. And she pulls Brian Kelly over towards me and says, "Hey, my friend really wants to meet you." And Brian Kelly looks me dead in my eyes and goes, "You're the dude with the harms." So he instantly recognized
Frankie.
me just from that. And so I take his picture, or take a picture with him. I said, "Dude, that was such an amazing show." And he says, "Thank you so much. I will be in touch."
Wow.
What?
You'll be in touch.
This is a defining moment for me, because maybe this could sort of take off if I start posting more stuff. So I start posting a few more covers here and there on Instagram, sharing them with artists. Dan and Shay connected with me at one point, and they said, "We would love to have you down to sing with us sometime." And I said, "Hey, I'm available."
And I have to interrupt you really fast because it always I like two part harmony is great. Like it's better than one, but like when you get that third, it changes things. It's so much better. And like Floor Georgia Line and Dan and Shay specifically, and I know they may have a person in the background sometimes singing a third, but I'm always like, they need a third guy. And it needs to
Yeah,
be Jeff Frankie.
yeah,
So I'm throwing your name out there.
I'm in.
Anyway.
I would love that. I know in the early going for Florida Georgia Line, they had a guy as a harmonizer.
Okay.
They would add that higher part, and BK would throw in the low part, and Tyler would always do the melody. And then they get to, I think it's their Dig Your Roots album.
Mm-hmm.
They finally got rid of the harmonizer, and it was just Brian and Tyler. And occasionally their producer who produced for Nickelback and for Daughtry, Joey Moy, I think is his name, he would occasionally throw in harmonies and stuff for them too. Dan and Shay, they do all their own stuff. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, that would be so amazing if I could just throw in one.
Yeah.
Give me one. That would be great.
Yeah.
So fast forward to around Christmas time of last year, my brother-in-law had quit his teaching job to start his own business because he was getting drained from teaching. And one of his ideas to me was, I've seen your videos on Instagram that you've posted. You should totally start a TikTok and see how that goes. And I was very hesitant about it because there's all these positives, there's all these negatives on TikTok, all
Mm-hmm.
these crazy things on there. And I'm like, do I really want to put myself out there? Because, you know, yes, I do love attention. Who doesn't love attention? But what kind of attention will this get?
Yeah.
Do people really want to hear somebody add a second harmony, add a third harmony to this song? Do people really care about that stuff? And Brian Kelly was also a driving force behind me starting this because he said, "You have a gift, you need to share it."
Mm-hmm.
And my brother in law, Chris, essentially said the same thing, where you need to share your gift with the world, just see what happens. So I decided that my first video, February 15th, is going to be from the Christian band Unspoken, who I have been friends with to this day since 2003. They were my first Christian concert that I saw at Slippery Rock. And I grew up at a Christian church, non-denominational church. I still go to that church. And I saw them. It was just, I was immediately impacted. And I thought to myself, you know what? let me share a song that is the most authentic version of myself. This is who I am, and I'm putting it out there. And seeing a few comments here and there from people that were like, hey, who is this group? Nobody knows who I am. This is my first video.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is Unspoken. This is a tremendous group. They sing about nothing but truth. They sing about the grace of God, and they're a primary reason why I am where I am today, getting baptized, because
Mm.
I love their music so much, and it's just a huge influence. And so I start posting that song, and I'm like, you know what? I'll go easy. I'll do one post a day. Don't make a big thing of it. Just, pick a song you want, because nobody's going to do any requests or anything like that. Nobody knows who I am. So I'll do one post a day and see what happens. And then I wake up, like I think it's March 1st. I wake up after posting Cover Me Up from Morgan Wallen, his cover of
Yes.
Jason Isbell's song. And I instantly got like hundreds and hundreds of comments. And I'm like, oh boy, what's happening? Because for a lot of people, they say all it takes is one video for you to take off. And that was the one that took off. And it's all through Chris's encouragement, Brian Kelly's encouragement. And, even asking my wife, like, hey, do you care if I do this? And she says, hey, go for it. This is your own thing. I'll support you no matter what happens with this. And now I'm sitting here on December 13th, almost 10 months to the time that I started posting, and I'm almost at 150K. And I have a list on my phone of requests from people asking, hey, can I hear the harmony to this song? Can I hear harmony to this song? And I try to be as supportive to my fans. I can't believe I would say the word fan.
Yeah.
But it's been an incredible experience so far.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
With some ups and downs, though.
Sure. No, I believe you. If you were to kind of scroll through the videos that you've posted, and TikTok's weird because, like, in your opinion, there's probably a few that you're like, man, this one was really good, and then like nobody sees it, and then like other ones completely blow up. But just out of curiosity, if you were to scroll through, are there any that you're like, man, I'm really proud of that one, or that one sounds really good, or maybe it's just like a song you love in general?
Looking through my posts, I have a set of collections on my page, and I'm really proud of the collection that's called duet or song reactions by the actual artists. And this one person, his name is Corey Harper. Corey Harper released a song called Emily's Frown, and he messaged me on Instagram, and he said to me, as a musician who's making it, he's doing that as his career. He says, you're an inspiration to so many of us in the songwriting community. I'm like, what? I didn't even write a song, and apparently what I'm doing is an inspiration, because what my main goal was to connect with musicians, period. Because I thought that I could hang with them.
Yeah.
Hang with big boys.
Yeah.
And so every cover that I do, I always make sure to tag that artist as, hey, I'm paying homage to you because you're doing something that I have always wanted to do. I just didn't aspire to do it until later in my life. But for Corey Harper to say that meant a lot to me. And I love the covers that I did for stuff like him. And there was a video that I was not so proud of that actually had blown up a lot more, because after hearing myself sing it, I'm like, why did this song blow up? Because I did not sing it very well. And it was a Luke Bryan song. Apparently Luke Bryan is not so well received on TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
But I did a cover of a Luke Bryan song, Drink a Beer.
Oh
And
yeah.
after hearing it played back, I was like, why did I post this? But people still loved it. And I did get a few comments from people saying, you shouldn't have posted this. And they were right. But I never took it off because I don't care. It's already out there.
Yeah, it's already out there. I think is your biggest one Mirrors, Justin
It's still
Timberlake?
it still mirrors.
Okay.
I think it's
Can
at
you
like 6.6 million views now.
Wow. Hey,
It's
that's
insane.
incredible. Shout out to my brother-in-law Grayson. He's obsessed with Justin Timberlake, so he
That's
loves that
awesome.
one.
Love that.
So I mean, you've been doing this for 10 months or so, and I mean, I don't see you really taking your foot off the gas. I know you've met a lot of different people. Are you just along for the ride? I mean, do you have some, I mean, because I remember if you rewind, I think it was maybe your brother-in-law that said, "Hey, I'm burnt out. I'm going to kind of start my own thing. Maybe you should start doing this." I mean, are you hoping that it leads to something? Like, what do you think's happening in 2024?
2024, I already have some projects lined up because of this so-called fame that I'm all of a sudden having. Um, with my career right now, it's stable. Having a teaching degree, having a teaching job. I'm in my 18th year. It's all very stable right now. And if something were to happen that could still give me financial stability,
Mm-hmm.
then yes, maybe I would leave teaching. But I don't see that happening because of how slow right now the projects are coming in. If more projects came in at a faster rate, then maybe I would say, yes, I
Yeah.
could just do this. But I will say in 2024 already, I have two songs that I'm waiting to complete for an EP for David Payne.
Nice.
Peyton John was just signed by LT Studios, which is based in Nashville, and that is the studio that I'm currently a harmonizer for. And they brought me on to be a harmonizer for his entire 11-track album.
Wow.
Yeah. And and so being just a harmonizer, it's not a ton of pay, which is okay. If say I wrote the song, then I could get streaming rights and then be able to make some money off of that. But I love the fact that I'm getting to help out other people like Peyton. And Peyton has even reached out to me prior to this on TikTok and had asked me to cover a couple of his songs. And one of them is in my car. One of them was in my studio in my band office. And I love his drive. I love that he stands for God as well. And I think that's something that the studio picked up on when they had asked me to harmonize for them.
That's super cool. Well, I believe in you. I'm excited to see what happens. I hope a lot more projects come your way. I don't know why they wouldn't. So definitely keep it up. Do you sing in church?
I do.
Okay.
I joined in 2005 with my praise team on bass. I just started singing bass or playing bass for them because they were in need of somebody. Their longtime bassist had been heading out the door, and I thought, what a good time to be able to do that. And I think it was a couple months after I had gotten baptized. I knew
Mm,
that if I wanted to be on the stage singing and praising the Lord, that I needed to be in the right headspace and I needed to be saved and wash my sins away, so to speak. And I wanted to make sure that that happened before I approached my praise band leader at the time and said, hey, I would love to join the team. And it was perfect fit. And so I've been either playing bass, playing keys, playing acoustic guitar, and playing drums here and there. And recently, we just had our praise band leader retire, and we got a new person in who's very musically inclined. And I think that the team will take off in a great direction. I love how the other person prior to that, it kind of set the stage up for us for the last 20 or so years leading the team. We didn't have a praise team. We just sang church hymns like every other church would. But the pastor at the time wanted to go in a new direction with a praise band type music. And so we did that, and proud to say I'm still on the team.
Man, that's super cool. So, this is almost a counseling question for me as
Okay.
someone who really enjoys singing and harmonizing, stuff like that. I feel like when I was younger, growing up in church, and I knew how to harmonize, I would just do it because I probably thought it sounded cool, or maybe the person in front of me would think it would sound good, or I like helped lead worship and did some of that there. But then when I like really started walking with the Lord later on in my early 20s, I found myself doing it maybe a little bit less in church because, one, I was like, it's not about if anyone hears me, but then also because I'm so obsessed with music sounding good and harmonizing and stuff like that, I almost felt it taking my focus off of worshiping, and I was just like strictly thinking about the music. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious for somebody like you that's an expert on this stuff. If you're, I mean, does that resonate? How do you deal with that? Or are you just like, no, I mean, I just harmonize and I'm worshiping and it's great.
Yeah, there's a few answers to that, because Sunday when we're playing, that's when I feel the spirit, because anytime that we are singing and connecting with the congregation, connecting with God, I feel that in so many ways that all the practicing that led up to it doesn't matter. And we could practice for hours on end and it doesn't matter. The time where it doesn't feel as worshipful is when we're trying to put that together. And we have a Thursday practice every week on whatever week that we serve. And then we practice on Sunday morning as well to try to fine tune little things. And for me, like I said, I feel the closest on Sunday morning. But at the same time, when I went into this, I didn't want it to feel like work.
Yeah.
Because, when you're singing for the Lord, it shouldn't feel like work. And you're just giving up your talents. And I know that He blessed me with them. That's why I'm on the team. And there have been times here and there, I will admit, yes, it felt like work, because you're trying to get those right chords here and there, get the right harmonies, make sure everyone's playing the right things on their instruments and stuff like that. There's a lot of behind the scenes things that people don't see when it comes to the praise team getting ready for a Sunday service. They hear the music, and everybody thinks that's always hunky dory, but it doesn't always get there. But yeah, so for me, that's kind of how I feel about it. Whenever I'm not serving, whenever I'm in the congregation, I still harmonize.
Yeah. You can't help it. You can't help
I
it.
can't.
It's like
It's something that I can't get past. And even my wife, who is a choir director, she'll harmonize an alto part onto it as well. I'm like, hey, you should join us up there. And she's like, nope.
Nope, not gonna do it.
Not gonna
Okay, so are you a band director?
I am a middle school band director. Yes.
Okay, so you're is that what you've done for most of your career?
Yeah. So my entire 18-year career, 18th year of teaching this year, middle school band director, and for 1 grade, 6th grade, I teach general music. And we have pianos that are in our room, and so I teach them how to play piano. A lot of other schools are different with that, because in Hillary's school for middle school general music, they don't have pianos. So they may have a music history year where they learn stuff on history music. And in other schools, they may have computer labs where they try and do some tech stuff. But for my school, we do piano. And this year, even in the midst of the TikTok craziness, I had to run marching band this season because the current band director went on maternity leave to have her second child. And the crazy story about this, and if she ever sees this podcast, she's going to laugh her butt off. But when we got her Christmas card in 2022, the Christmas card said, Merry Christmas from Matt, Jamie, Evie, and new baby. And immediately I look at my wife and I say, I have to run marching band this fall.
Yeah, I bet you did.
And she's going to be gone for the entire season. And I did ask her that. I said, are you going to be gone for the whole season? And she said, probably. And I said, good, because you come in there in the middle of the season, you don't know what the show's going to be, and you don't want to have to correct anything that maybe I had done. And you never took an entire year off of marching band in our entire career. We've spent our entire career there together. So I was happy for her to be able to do that. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing.
Oh, that's awesome. So middle schoolers, do you have like some like a crate of like deodorant for the guys that don't wear it?
Yeah. I
You're
wish I
probably
could. Oh, it's so bad.
oh my
So bad.
gosh.
Sometimes even the girls, but it's mostly the guys.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think of like, oh my gosh, middle school. Good time. Hey, they are lucky to have you. I'll tell you that. Tell me this. Your students that are old enough to be looking around on the internet, surely some of them have found you. I mean, what do they think about that?
It's definitely a shock. To some, I just had somebody comment on my latest video. And they're like, Mr. Frankenstein. I remember her commenting on a video that I posted when I went down to Nashville to sing with my best friend. And we did like a garage concert. And him and this other guy, we have been best friends since college. They were both in my wedding. And we went down to his house one weekend. And I was like, you know what? He was like, we're going to do a garage concert. And I remember this student commenting on that video, and she said, I remember when you were just playing your guitar during our study halls, and it was so calming, even in the midst of things that were happening. And middle school life is crazy. I, for one, personally hated middle school, and some of those kids that go to middle school every day, it's not where they want to be, especially in the social media age. That's not
Yep.
where they want to be. They would much rather be on their phones doing this and that. But when she read that when she wrote that comment to me, I was very happy to see that I made an impact on her, as well as some other kids were in there. And it was a full circle moment to see her comment on my Harmony video yesterday.
Yeah. Oh man, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine how much of an impact you've had on just, I mean, doing this for 18 years, you've got so many students that have come through. And I think one of the biggest messages that I've learned from you, and I want our listeners to learn, is your story. And I mean, my podcast is called Wake Up and Lead, and it's gotten pretty broad with who I interview. A lot of times it's just people that I find really interesting, like you. But I think every person in life is a leader because they have to lead themselves. You know, if you want to lead other people, you've got to be able to lead yourselves first. And
Yes.
as I look at your story, growing up in a digital age, your middle schoolers, they think that some of them may find their identity in how many followers they have or something like that. It's like in middle school, social media wasn't even a thought for you, and you've been doing this for, about 2 decades. And you're just now seeing the quote fame or quote success, but you've been successful all along. Like, I don't know as you've looked back, do you have maybe a message to share of just the hard work that you've put in, and just to a middle schooler that might, want to be famous or something like that? I don't know. I think there's something you can learn from, like, hey man, like I've been doing this for 20 years, and this stuff doesn't just like necessarily come overnight.
I would say, for someone that wants to do what I've done, do it sooner.
Yeah.
Do it sooner. because I I had notions that, hey, maybe I would eventually tour with somebody, or that I could write music for somebody. And I never did that when I was growing up. I never wrote any music. I just liked playing covers of songs, period, whether it was bass or acoustic guitar. I'd always liked doing things for people because I love serving people. And I'm serving the kids now. I'm in trying to be a positive influence as well, because there are kids in my school that don't have that positive influence that they need every single day. And I'm glad that they look up to me in that regard. Whenever they give me requests for songs too, I try to tell them, hey, look, if you've seen my channel, you know that I'm going to be as authentic and as clean as possible, because as a teacher, if I put anything out there that is even remotely negative,
Mm-hmm.
condescending in any way, my job could be gone. And I have to make sure that they are aware of that without me really saying that to them.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to feel that through the videos that I post, that, I'm having a good time doing what I'm doing, but I want to be a positive influence. And for a lot of the kids, we ask them to be positive influences on others. Like, how can you handle that situation better by being a positive influence? Do you always need to be negative? No. But in this digital era that we are in, which is crazy, and backtracking just for a second, that's how my brother-in-law Chris is now thriving, because he's doing an online business.
Mm.
When he was teaching, he was so frustrated coming home by how things would be for him. And now he is doing things that he absolutely loves. He's like a training coach, and he's helping people become better fathers, husbands becoming better, just husbands that have kids becoming better dads for their kids. And I absolutely admire that and love that about him, that he was able to find something else that he loves to do. And so for these kids, if this is what they want to do, go for it. Be consistent with who you are.
Mm.
And for me, I want to be consistent in what I post and about who I am.
Yeah, man, that's a really good message. If I could go back, I don't think I asked that question in the greatest way, but I like your response there. I did recently read in a book about this guy Ben Newman talks about the art of aggressive patience, and so an example would be if you're a super aggressive person, like let's say you're in middle school and you do follow Mr. Frankenstein's advice, and you're like, I am going to go for it, but you don't maybe see the results that you're looking for. Well, it's good to have that like aggression and be a go-getter, but you also have to have that patience because it may not come overnight. But then also you might say that what I'm hearing you say is maybe you were patient for a little too long. You're almost like, oh, I almost wish I would have had that aggression earlier. But the thing is
Yeah.
I mean, you've got big things coming. It's never too late. So I'm excited to see
It,
what's
it's
ahead
great.
for you.
It's crazy to think what could happen next year. That this has been a crazy, crazy year. I did not think for 40 years old to be either finishing 5 projects for a studio, and they're not all released, but they're done. Getting 4 songs out on Apple Music and Spotify with my harmonies on them. Flying to Nashville courtesy of Brian Thomas, who is a current singer-songwriter trying to make it as a country artist, where he does rights with people. Him asking me to play a gig with him at Jason Aldean's rooftop bar. And then 3 days
Wow.
later, singing in Cleveland with Brian Kelly on stage. I mean, and all of this happened 2 days, like that concert that I had with Brian Kelly, that happened 2 days before I had to take over Bandcamp.
Wow.
I had to make sure
Man,
all of that was done before I could start running the marching band. And so it
dude,
was
you're
crazy. It was
not
a crazy
even
year.
you're not even a year into this. I'm
I'm not a
just
year in.
keep it up. I am excited to see. I'm super excited to see what's ahead. A couple more questions, and then we can run here. I have a
Okay.
playlist on my phone called "Not Worship Worship." It's like a it's a strange name, but it's compiled of songs that would that I don't think were written with the intent to be like a worship song. Like you're not going to hear it in church, but when you hear it, when you hear the words, you're like, man,
Mhm.
like God wove his way into this, and I think he does it a lot. You've done a lot of Rascal Flatts
Yes.
covers on your TikTok, and like
Yeah.
so many of their songs are like you. I think you sang one the other day that I'm like, man, that is like that could be sung in church. But all that said, I'm curious. Do you have like, do you ever hear a song um, that wasn't necessarily intended to be worship, but you're like, man, I feel like I could
Ooh.
worship to this song, you know?
Oh man. Well, see, there's so many songs like that that I think could be categorized like that. Now, for me, I grew up a Rascal Flatts fan when
Yeah.
they came out in 2000 with "Praying for Daylight" album. Oh, it was such a monumental album. Hearing the
Yeah.
three-part harmonies and getting to see them 3 times before they broke up is a true blessing. Getting to see Jay DeMarcus, though, post with Joe Don Rooney just recently was it was eye-opening because, hey, maybe there could be a comeback happening because they said they were going to do a farewell tour kind of, and then COVID ruined that.
Mm,
But there could be could be an opportunity for them to do it again. That'd be great. Um, there is there is a song. There's one song that comes to my mind, and I want to make sure that I get the title of this. But it's called "Down Home Dreams" by Red Farron, Blake Red Farron.
okay.
That is a song that every time that I listen to it, I just get stuck on not so much the harmonies, and I've covered that before. I think it was my 7th or 8th video that I covered. When I listen to that song and I hear the music, there's so much emotion to that music, and I don't even think he intended on that to happen. It was just about him chasing his dreams even after his mom passed and trying to raise himself, sort of thing. And the lyrics to it are really, really good. And Blake Redfarron, I should mention, wrote a whole bunch of hits for Florida Georgia Line. That's his connection.
Oh, wow. That's
So
awesome.
yeah. Um I, and hearing that song and hearing the chords, hearing the part where there's no singing, I just get infatuated with that part of it.
Oh man, I love it. Well, I'm glad I'm not alone here. So I was I was I pulled up this playlist the other day because I actually want to just ask you this question. I hadn't looked at it in a while, and like half the songs, you look at the lyrics, and if you
Mhm.
didn't hear the music behind it, you're like, oh wow, that's really good. Like Rascal Flatts, the every day you save my life, like that's I'm
Yeah,
like, man, like that is worship.
there's
But
worship in there. You know the song "He Ain't the Leaving Kind" by them. That's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's as much a worship song as any, and you know they didn't intend to write that as a worship song.
Yeah, no, so I was listening to that, but then I came across a few other songs that I was listening to the lyrics and I'm like, I don't know why I put this on here, but I think it was just because the music in general is so like moving that you almost you almost feel it. But before I shared that playlist, I was gonna send it to one of my siblings. I didn't want them to be confused, like, why is this song that is clearly strange on here? But anyways, here's how I want to end. You've posted about this a couple of times. I know that you are a husband and a father and a follower of Jesus. How, in the midst of this kind of blowing up, have you had to be mindful of it maybe becoming a idol in your life or taking focus away from your family or your faith? Like I'm a new dad, so I'm just trying to learn from people in your shoes. Because you know sometimes you're out in the world and you're like, oh, there's so much to go get, but then you know you don't want to forget about your family and your faith. So we'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so I I was doing really well with balancing what was going on with TikTok with my family. At the beginning of the stage, or beginning of this whole thing, like I said, I posted maybe one video a day and then start doing 2 videos a day. I was just getting selfish with what was happening after things had really, really taken off. Cover Me Up had blown up like crazy. And even during the summer months, Fireflies by Owl City, just trying to think of videos that were going nuts. A
That
lot of
song
country
is
songs
legendary, Fireflies.
were going nuts. Jason Aldean's The Truth. I released that song at the time that he was very controversial with his Try That in a Small Town song that came
Yep.
out. And people were like, no, don't ever cover that stuff again. I'm like, I'm just paying homage.
I love that song, The
You
Truth.
can have your own opinion. Great song.
Yeah.
And then when Mirrors went viral, I was like, I really need to slow down and prioritize my family more, because I was getting so selfish, getting caught up in the fame of what TikTok was. And I promised myself that I wasn't going to do that, but I did it because, we live in a society where we love that attention that we get.
Mhm.
And I was dipping into the attention so much that when Mirrors went viral, I needed to take a break, because
Mhm.
I had gotten 400, maybe 500 requests for songs. And I have a full-time job that I need to dedicate to my students. And I'm also a full-time dad. I can't sit in my car for hours on end and say, hey, I'm going to go cover this one, or I'm going to go cover that one. Harmonies don't just naturally, I mean, when I film a video, yes, the harmonies do come naturally, but there is a process in where, like, it does not always happen in one take.
Mhm.
And for me, memorizing songs, memorizing lyrics is very hard for me. So I've developed a time where I would start bringing my laptop into my car and start reading the lyrics off, but still have the harmony in my head so I can get those out. But there were times where I filmed multiple videos, dozens at one time, but I was taking time away from what was important. And after Mirrors went viral, I had said to people, hey, I need to take a break, and made sure that I shared that with them. And there were a few people that were like, you're just singing. What's the big deal? And I go, yeah, you're right. I am just singing. However, I'm wanting to perfect every video too. And that's a lot of pressure to be able to perfect every video so that I am spot on. And I was just getting too caught up in it. And the priority that I made after this past month was that I need to really slow down, take care of what matters, not post so much, just focus on being a family man first, a God driven man first. God's the reason why I'm doing everything. God's the
Yeah.
reason why we do anything, period. And so getting to have the family that I have is a true blessing. Getting all this fame, yeah, it's great, but that's not what we're going to have when we go to heaven.
Mhm.
We're not going to have all that attention anymore. Everyone's going to remember what you did, but once that gets put aside, that's not going to matter when we're there with him. And I just knew that I needed to slow down and let the fans know. And many of the fans were so supportive of that, because they knew that I had a life outside of this. They knew,
Mhm.
hey, I'm a full-time teacher. I'm a father. That takes precedent over everything. And I could take a 2-3 month break from TikTok and it wouldn't matter,
Yeah.
honestly. People would
Yeah.
still be there waiting. And that's what most of them said. They're like, we'll wait for you.
Hey,
It'll be
we'll
okay.
we'll wait for you, Frankie. We'll
We'll
wait.
wait for you.
I'll always wait on you. Yeah, no, I love it. This is good for me to hear. I've heard it mentioned, like your life, whether it's your work, your hobbies, your family, like they're all like imagine you holding like a bunch of like a couple of balls that you could juggle. Like a lot of them might be bouncy balls. Like if you take a couple months off of TikTok, you drop it, it can bounce back up. You take a
Yeah.
couple months off something else, you can drop it, it can bounce back up. But like with your family, they say like your family's like a glass ball. You know, it's like you don't get a ton of mess ups. I mean, obviously you're not perfect, but like you don't ever want to just like set them aside
Yeah.
because things could crumble. And I know you've embraced that, and I'm sure they're thankful for it. But I know we are up on time. This has been a joy. Family, Dorch family, you're welcome for this. Frankie is the man. But there's a
Shout
lot
out to the
throughout.
Dork family.
Yes, let's go. But yeah, I like to end this by asking people to tell my listeners to wake up and lead, because I think a lot of times we're asleep at the wheel of our own life. You know, we may get distracted by something, or we may be afraid to put ourselves out there. And I want us to wake up. So I usually say it's time for you and me, and then you say to wake up and lead. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, it's time for you and me.
Wake up and lead.
Let's go.